Under the blazing lights of reality television, where every whisper becomes a headline and every glance turns into a scandal, the latest feud has left fans absolutely stunned. Kirk Frost, never one to shy away from confrontation, let loose words so sharp that the entire backstage crew froze in disbelief. And at the center of it all was Yandy, caught off guard by accusations so personal and so cutting that the audience watching from home couldn't believe their ears. Rumors began spreading instantly, with fans replaying the footage, dissecting every expression, every pause, every muttered word, wondering if they had just witnessed one of the most brutal verbal showdowns in love and hip-hop history. But the real shock wasn't only in Kirk's fiery outburst. It was in what followed. Because as the accusations poured out, claims of past affairs, whispered pregnancies, and hidden betrayals, the camera quickly shifted to Rasheeda. Her silence said more than words ever could, and fans were left gasping, asking themselves, would she defend her husband? Or would she finally snap under the pressure of years of public humiliation? One moment, one heated clash, and the entire love and hip-hop family was thrown into chaos. The tension in the backstage air was so heavy that even the loud buzzing of the lights overhead seemed muted, drowned beneath the weight of Kirk Frost's voice. The show had wrapped, the official cameras had stopped rolling, but the real storm was only beginning to brew. Kirk, never one to hold his tongue when pushed, let loose with words so sharp that they seemed to slice through the room. His focus was locked squarely on Yandy, a woman who had always carried herself with a certain calm, but even she wasn't prepared for the venom he spat. "You think everyone don't know?" Kirk said, his tone mocking, his eyes narrowing. "You've been playing this innocent card for years, acting like you above the mess, but I know your past." "I know what you've been hiding!" Gasps rippled through the crowd gathered nearby. Assistants, cast members, and even some fans who had sneaked into the backstage corridor for autographs froze where they stood. What was supposed to be a routine cool-down after filming had turned into an explosive showdown, and no one could look away. Yandy's body stiffened, her lips parting in disbelief. "What are you even talking about, Kirk? Don't stand here and try to drag me into your foolishness. If you got a problem with your marriage, don't put my name in your mess." Her voice was sharp, but there was a tremor in it, the kind of tremor that made everyone lean in closer. But Kirk wasn't done. He leaned forward, his words practically hissing. "Don't play dumb, Yandy. Don't act like you haven't been involved with people you shouldn't have been. Don't act like there weren't times you had to disappear, times you prayed nobody found out you were pregnant." That word, pregnant, sent shockwaves across the room. Some people put their hands over their mouths. Others exchanged frantic glances. Was Kirk really saying this out loud in front of everyone? Was this real or another one of his deflections? The cameras might have been off, but cell phones were out in an instant. Crew members whispered nervously, torn between breaking it up and letting it play out. The energy was so explosive that it felt almost staged, but the raw emotion on both faces told another story. Rasheeda stood a few steps behind, her arms folded tightly across her chest, her face an unreadable canvas. She didn't jump to Kirk's defense, nor did she move to console Yandy. She just stared, her jaw tense, her eyes flicking between the two like she was calculating every word being said. Fans who later dissected the leaked clips insisted that Rasheeda's silence said more than anything Kirk or Yandy shouted that night. Yandy finally snapped out of her stunned state, her voice rising with fury. "How dare you stand here and talk about me like that? You think you're exposing me? Kirk, everybody knows your history. Everybody knows the way you've humiliated your wife over and over again. You're not a man calling out the truth. You're a coward trying to drag someone else down so you don't have to look in the mirror." The crowd hummed in agreement. But Kirk only smirked, his words cutting deeper. "See, that's the thing with you, Yandy. You've convinced everybody you're untouchable. You've built this image of being the perfect one. But I know. I know about the men. I know about the nights you tried to cover up your mistakes. I know more than you think." Yandy's eyes flashed, tears threatening, but never falling. She stepped forward so close that security shifted nervously, anticipating something physical. Her voice lowered, but every syllable dripped with venom. "You're disgusting. You can't stand the fact that people see me as strong while they see you as weak. You've dragged your wife through the mud for years, and now you're desperate enough to make up lies about me. You should be ashamed." The room crackled with tension. Crew members whispered to each other about whether to intervene, but nobody wanted to be the one to stop the show. Because make no mistake, this was a show. Even if it wasn't being filmed for VH1, every word, every glare, every pause was pure reality television gold. And then, the moment everyone would talk about for weeks came. Yandy turned sharply toward Rasheeda, her voice shaking but steady. So what now? Are you gonna stand there and let him do this? Are you gonna let your husband try to tear down another woman just to protect his own dirty name? That question pierced through the chaos like a dagger. Rasheeda blinked, her lips parting, but no sound came at first. It was as if years of bottled-up pain had suddenly cracked open. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, almost trembling. "I'm tired," she said simply. "I'm so damn tired of all this. Every time it's something. Every year, every season, Kirk finds a new way to humiliate me, to humiliate us. And now this?" Her words hit Kirk harder than Yandy's did. He turned toward his wife, his bravado faltering for a split second. "Rasheeda, don't do that. You know I'm telling the truth. You know I'm not making this up." But Rasheeda shook her head, her eyes glistening. "No, what I know is that you love deflecting. You can't handle your own scandals, so you drag someone else into it. I don't know what's real anymore, Kirk. I don't know if you're lashing out because you're guilty or because you're scared. But I'm done being in the middle of it." Fans who later saw the leaked clip would replay those words over and over, convinced it was the clearest sign yet that Rasheeda was ready to walk away from her marriage. Social media lit up with hashtags, people debating whether this was the final straw. Meanwhile, Yandy stood her ground, her breathing heavy, but her voice steadier now. "If you think you can break me with your lies, Kirk, you're wrong. I've built myself on truth, on strength. I don't need to tear anyone else down to feel powerful. Can you say the same?" Kirk's jaw clenched, his fists tightening at his sides. For a moment, it seemed like he might lash out physically. But security stepped in closer, forming a barrier without ever touching him. The atmosphere was electric, every second dragging like an eternity. The shouting, the accusations, the heartbreak. It all swirled into one unforgettable scene. Some crew members whispered about calling it a night, but no one wanted to be the first to end it. This was too raw, too real, too explosive. It was the kind of drama that fans would devour for weeks, dissecting every detail, turning speculation into endless debates. By the time the voices finally lowered, the damage had already been done. Kirk had made accusations that could never be taken back. Yandy had been forced to defend herself in the harshest of spotlights. And Rasheeda had revealed a weariness that fans had long suspected but rarely heard from her own lips. Nothing about this confrontation could be undone, and everyone in that backstage hallway knew it. And as the night wound down, as people slowly began to scatter, as the air still buzzed with leftover tension, the thought lingered in everyone's minds. This wasn't the end. This was the spark to a fire that would burn through friendships, marriages, and reputations before it ever died out. The chaos from that night refused to die down. The very next morning, social media was buzzing like a hornet's nest. Each clip of Kirk Frost's backstage outburst being replayed slowed down, and dissected by fans who couldn't believe what they had witnessed. Hashtags popped up instantly, dragging both Kirk and Yandy into a whirlwind of speculation. Some fans were convinced Kirk had finally gone too far, making baseless accusations just to hurt someone else. Others whispered that maybe there was some truth to his words, that Kirk wouldn't risk saying something so explosive if he didn't have at least a piece of evidence tucked away. Yandy tried to keep a calm face when she logged into her socials, but even she couldn't ignore the storm. Her name was trending, her past was being dragged into the spotlight, and the one thing she had always managed to protect, her reputation, was suddenly in question. Videos surfaced of her snapping back at Kirk, fans praising her for standing strong, while others accused her of dodging the real questions. The internet was divided, and that division only made the drama bigger. Backstage whispers soon became full-blown rumors. Some insiders claimed Kirk had been sitting on this information for months, waiting for the right moment to explode. Others believed it was pure deflection, another one of Kirk's desperate attempts to distract from his own never-ending scandals. But the most shocking claims came from people who insisted Kirk wasn't alone in knowing Yandy's alleged secrets. They said Rasheeda herself had heard whispers long ago but kept them quiet, choosing peace over another public scandal. Rasheeda, meanwhile, was silent. Her Instagram story was blank, her timeline untouched. Fans flooded her comments begging her to speak out, to either defend her husband or stand with Yandy. But she offered nothing, and that silence only fueled more speculation. Was she broken by Kirk's behavior? Was she secretly aware of what he was talking about? Or was she simply exhausted, too drained to even participate in the circus that her life had once again become? The cast of the show was shaken. What should have been just another reunion episode had turned into something that threatened to unravel relationships that had lasted years. Carly Red was quick to jump online, her sly smile barely hiding the thrill she got from seeing chaos unfold. In a live stream, she teased, "Y'all don't even know the half of it. What you saw is just the surface. Trust me, there's way more to this story. Her words sent fans into a frenzy, dissecting every syllable, convinced she knew something explosive about Yandy's past. Bambi wasn't far behind, taking to Twitter with a cryptic message that read, "Funny how the loudest ones always got the dirtiest closets." She didn't name names, but fans immediately linked it back to Yandy, fueling even more drama. While all this unfolded, Kirk doubled down. In another backstage conversation that leaked a day later, he could be heard saying, "I don't care if people think I'm the bad guy. I know what I know. Yandy's not who she pretends to be. Let her deny it all she wants. The truth gonna come out eventually." His defiance only deepened the divide. Some fans rallied behind him, claiming he wouldn't risk his marriage and reputation by saying something so bold if he didn't believe it. Others dragged him mercilessly, reminding everyone of his long history of cheating and lying, and calling him a hypocrite for daring to attack another woman. Yandy, refusing to let Kirk control the narrative, arranged a meeting with a few cast members to clear her name. Cameras weren't supposed to be rolling, but someone's phone caught pieces of it, and soon the clips spread like wildfire. Yandy sat across from Erica, Mina, and Spice, her voice firm but eyes tired. "I've worked too hard to build my reputation to let Kirk destroy it in one night," she said. "This man has no respect for his own wife, and now he wants to drag me down with him. I will not let it happen." Spice leaned back in her chair, her eyes narrowing. "But girl, you know how it looks. When somebody throws out something like that, people start to wonder. You gotta come harder than just saying it's not true. You gotta give people something to hold on to." Yandy's jaw tightened. "What I don't have to do is prove myself against a liar. Kirk been disrespecting women his whole life. I won't give him the satisfaction of making me beg for credibility." But as strong as her words were, the tension in her voice betrayed the weight of the accusations. She knew once an idea was planted in the public's mind, it was nearly impossible to erase. Meanwhile, Kirk and Rasheeda's household was far from calm. Reports leaked that Rasheeda confronted Kirk in private, demanding to know why he would bring Yandy into their marriage issues. "Do you even hear yourself?" she allegedly told him. "You're out here attacking another woman while I'm standing here once again, embarrassed because of you. How many times do you think I can take this before I walk away?" Those close to the couple claimed Kirk tried to spin it, insisting he was only telling the truth and that Rasheeda needed to trust him. But her patience was thinner than ever, and fans noticed her absence from Kirk's usual posts, reading it as a silent protest. The more the story spread, the more fans began turning against Kirk. Twitter threads popped up chronicling his entire history of scandals, from past affairs to public humiliations of Rasheeda. Memes flooded the internet, painting Kirk as a man who couldn't stay out of drama if his life depended on it. One viral post read, "Kirk Frost accusing someone of cheating is like a thief calling somebody a liar." It racked up thousands of likes and retweets, showing just how little credibility Kirk had left in the eyes of the public. Yet, in the midst of the backlash, Kirk found allies. A few voices online insisted Yandy wasn't as spotless as she claimed. Anonymous accounts surfaced, hinting at old relationships and drama that had never been made public. While none of these claims were verified, they added fuel to the fire, making the story even murkier. Fans didn't know what to believe anymore, and that uncertainty only kept them glued to the drama. The network itself wasn't blind to the chaos. Insiders whispered that producers were thrilled with the attention, already plotting how to spin this into a major storyline for the next season. Leaked emails hinted that executives were pushing to schedule follow-up tapings, hoping to capture the fallout on camera. For them, Kirk's outburst wasn't a disaster. It was ratings gold. Backstage, however, things were anything but golden. Trust among the cast was shattered. Lines were drawn, alliances broken. Some sided with Yandy, praising her strength and dismissing Kirk as a desperate man clinging to relevance. Others stayed quiet, afraid of choosing the wrong side and becoming the next target. And through it all, Rasheeda's silence grew heavier. The more she stayed quiet, the more fans speculated about what she truly believed. By the end of the week, the situation had escalated far beyond a simple argument. Kirk's accusations weren't just about Yandy anymore. They had become a test of loyalty, a measure of truth, and a mirror reflecting years of pain, lies, and betrayal within their circle. And though no fists were thrown that night, the damage from the words spoken was far more lasting than any physical fight could ever be. The stage was set. The players locked in their roles, and the world waited to see who would break first. Would Yandy crumble under the weight of the rumors? Would Kirk finally face the consequences of his reckless tongue? Or would Rasheeda, caught between loyalty and self-respect, make the decision fans had long begged her to make? The answers weren't clear yet, but one thing was certain. This wasn't just another love and hip-hop squabble. This was the kind of drama that could reshape the cast forever, the kind that would be whispered about in fan circles long after the cameras stopped rolling. The fallout from Kirk's accusations spread like wildfire, and by the time the weekend rolled around, the entire cast was on edge. The network had kept quiet publicly, but whispers among production staff revealed they were scrambling to figure out how to handle the situation. Not long after, a leaked clip surfaced showing Yandy confronting Kirk directly at a small cast gathering. The room was dimly lit, filled with tense faces and half-whispered conversations. When Yandy walked in, her presence commanding attention. "You had the nerve to call me out," she said, her voice echoing. "So now I want you to look me in the eye and say it again. Tell me to my face what you think you know." Kirk, leaning back in his chair with a smug grin, didn't hesitate. "I don't think, Yandy, I know. You ain't the saint you pretend to be. People have been whispering for years, but nobody had the courage to say it. Well, I'm saying it now." The room erupted with gasps and murmurs, and before anyone could step in, Yandy's fury boiled over. "You are pathetic, Kirk. You've cheated on your wife in front of the whole world, humiliated her season after season, and now you want to come after me? You are drowning in your own mess, and instead of owning up, you want to drag me into the mud with you. I won't allow it." Rasheeda, seated silently on the far end of the couch, suddenly lifted her head. Her eyes burned as she looked at her husband. "Is this really what you're doing? Embarrassing me again, making me sit here while you attack another woman?" Kirk opened his mouth to respond, but Rasheeda cut him off, her voice rising. "No, don't even start. I've had enough of your excuses. You think every time you feel cornered, you can point your finger at somebody else. You think blaming Yandy is going to erase what you've done to me? It's not, Kirk. Nothing you say will erase the pain you've caused in this marriage." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the sound of a few cast members shifting uncomfortably in their seats. The tension between Kirk and Rasheeda was so raw that even Yandy looked stunned, unsure whether to continue fighting Kirk or step back and let his own wife finish tearing him down. The leaked footage went viral within hours, fans flooding social media with their reactions. Rasheeda finally finding her voice, one post read, while another declared, "Kirk throwing rocks from a glass house. Classic." The narrative shifted quickly. It wasn't just Kirk versus Yandy anymore. It was Kirk versus the world, with Rasheeda caught in the crossfire. But Kirk wasn't about to let his image crumble without a fight. In a private conversation with Scrappy and Safari, which later found its way online, Kirk doubled down again. "Y'all can say what you want, but I know what I know. Yandy been hiding her dirt. She ain't no better than me, no matter how hard she tries to act perfect." Scrappy raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "Bruh, you sure you want to keep this up? 'Cause from where I'm sitting, you lookin' real desperate. People already don't trust you, and now you trying to expose somebody else? It ain't a good look." Safari laughed, shaking his head. "Man, you better hope you got receipts, 'cause if you don't, Yandy gonna eat you alive. And the fans? They ain't playing with you no more." The clip painted Kirk as stubborn, even reckless, and fans latched onto the idea that he was willing to burn every bridge just to protect his pride. Still, the whispers about Yandy's past continued. Some anonymous sources claimed Kirk wasn't lying, that there were things about Yandy's life before the cameras that hadn't been made public. None of it was proven, but in the court of public opinion, proof wasn't necessary. Drama was enough. Meanwhile, Rasheeda's patience hit its breaking point. Insiders revealed that she packed a bag and left their shared home for several nights, refusing to speak to Kirk unless it was about the children. "I'm tired of always being the woman who forgives," she allegedly told a friend. "How many times do I have to prove my loyalty when he keeps dragging me through hell?" This revelation only fueled fans' theories that Rasheeda might finally be ready to walk away for good. Hashtags like Ajmer Team Rasheeda and Ours Leave Kirk trended, fans urging her to choose peace over pain. Some even tagged Yandy, praising her for standing her ground and telling her not to let Kirk's words break her spirit. As the feud deepened, producers staged another group meeting, hoping to salvage some control. But instead of reconciliation, the gathering turned into another battleground. Kirk walked in with his usual swagger, but the cast's cold stares told him he was losing support fast. Yandy sat calmly, her hands folded in her lap, but the fire in her eyes was unmistakable. When Kirk tried to speak, she cut him off. "You've had your moment. You've thrown your stones. Now answer this, where's your proof? Where are these so-called receipts you claim to have? Because unless you can put something real on the table, everything you've said is nothing but lies." Kirk shifted uncomfortably, his confidence wavering. He muttered about people knowing things and stories that would come out, but he had nothing concrete. Rasheeda let out a bitter laugh, her voice dripping with sarcasm. So that's it? You dragged another woman, risked our marriage, and embarrassed yourself on national television? All because of some whispers you can't even back up. Unbelievable. The cast erupted, some shaking their heads, others outright calling Kirk out. Spice leaned forward, wagging a finger. You can't play with a woman's reputation like that, Kirk. Not when you ain't got nothing solid. You crossed a line, and you know it. The confrontation ended with Kirk storming out, his pride wounded but his stubbornness intact. Yandy exhaled deeply, finally feeling like the weight had shifted. For once, the spotlight wasn't on her supposed secrets. It was on Kirk's inability to back up his words. But the drama wasn't over. Because as fans debated online, as Rasheeda weighed the future of her marriage, and as Kirk licked his wounds, whispers began to circulate that someone from Yandy's past was preparing to speak up. Whether it was an old flame, a jealous rival, or just another opportunist looking for attention, no one knew. But the possibility alone kept the story alive, proving that in the world of love and hip-hop, the past never stays buried for long. And so, the feud stretched on, bigger than ever, with no clear resolution in sight. Fans were glued to every development. Cast members chose sides carefully, and Kirk's reckless words had set in motion a chain of events that none of them could fully control. The days following Kirk's stormy exit were anything but calm. Social media hadn't cooled off. Tabloids were eating the story alive, and fans were locked in heated debates across every platform. Everywhere you looked, Kirk's name was being dragged. Yandy's reputation was being questioned, and Rasheeda's silence was being dissected like a puzzle that needed solving. The noise was deafening, and yet, for those at the heart of the storm, it was the silence between them that hurt the most. Rasheeda stayed away from Kirk for days. People close to her claimed she was spending time with friends, leaning on them for support while she tried to figure out her next move. This isn't the first time he's embarrassed me, she confided, her voice heavy with exhaustion, but it feels like it might be the last. Her words spread quickly, becoming yet another headline that hinted the marriage might finally be at its breaking point. Kirk, on the other hand, was restless. Insiders revealed he spent late nights calling producers, trying to convince them he still had bombshell information that could back up his claims. But every time someone pressed him for receipts, he came up empty-handed. The more he tried to hold on to the story, the weaker his position became. Fans weren't buying it anymore. Memes mocked him, dragging his credibility through the mud, while hashtags like #ObKirkDone trended across Twitter. Yandy, however, was determined not to let the storm define her. She began speaking more openly, posting videos where she addressed her fans directly. Sitting in her living room with Mendices by her side, she looked straight into the camera and said, "I've built my life on honesty and strength. I've made mistakes, sure, but I will not stand by while someone tries to destroy me with lies." Kirk Frost tried to play with my name, but he forgot one thing: the truth always wins. Her words struck a chord with viewers. Fans flooded her comments with support, praising her composure and calling her the true queen of the franchise. The turning point came during another cast sit-down, one the producers carefully orchestrated in hopes of salvaging some kind of storyline they could air. The atmosphere was charged, the cameras rolling this time, and everyone waiting to see how Kirk would handle himself, now that his accusations had unraveled. When Kirk walked in, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. He tried to keep his usual bravado, but his eyes betrayed a man who knew he was cornered. Yandy sat across from him, her expression calm but cold, while Rasheeda positioned herself in the middle, no longer shielding her husband, but not entirely ready to abandon him either. The host of the sit-down wasted no time. "Kirk, you made some heavy accusations. Do you have anything at all that proves what you said?" All eyes locked on him. Kirk cleared his throat, fumbling with his phone as if he might pull up some long-awaited evidence. But after a few seconds of scrolling, he sighed and shoved it back in his pocket. "Look, maybe I shouldn't have said it the way I did. Maybe I came off wrong. But I ain't just making things up. I heard things, real things, and I believe them." Yandy leaned forward, her voice steady. "So you destroyed my character, dragged my name through the dirt, embarrassed your wife, and all you have are whispers?" "Kirk, you didn't just come for me. You came for every woman who's ever had to defend herself against baseless rumors. Do you know how dangerous that is?" Rasheeda's eyes burned as she turned to her husband. "And do you know how humiliating it is for me, Kirk? Sitting here once again, watching you spiral and drag me with you? I don't know what's worse, your lies or your need to always have the last word." The room fell silent, every word hanging heavy in the air. Kirk shifted uncomfortably, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his own mess. For once, he didn't have a comeback. Spice broke the silence, her thick accent laced with fury. Kirk, you wrong? You wrong for Yandy, and you wrong for Rasheeda. You don't get to play with people's lives like it's nothing. You better fix this before you lose everything. Carly Red, never one to miss a chance for drama, added fuel to the fire. Girl, he already lost half his respect. The only thing left is what Rasheeda decides to do next. Her words echoed what fans had been saying for days. Kirk's marriage was hanging by a thread. The moment that sealed it came when Rasheeda finally stood, her voice trembling but resolute. I've given you years, Kirk. Years of loyalty, years of second chances, years of forgiving things nobody else would forgive. But this, I don't know if I can do it anymore. I can't keep living in this cycle of humiliation. She turned to Yandy, her tone softening. I'm sorry he dragged you into this. You didn't deserve it. The apology stunned fans when the footage aired. It was rare for Rasheeda to publicly step away from Kirk's shadow, and in that moment, she gained more support than ever before. Fans called her brave, praising her for finally holding Kirk accountable. The fallout was immediate. Kirk tried to issue a half-hearted apology online, posting a video where he claimed he was just emotional and didn't mean to disrespect Yandy like that. But the damage was done. Comments flooded the post, calling him out, telling him he needed to do more than apologize if he wanted to earn back respect. Some even demanded the network cut him from the show, arguing his time had passed. Yandy, meanwhile, came out stronger than ever. She used the drama to highlight the struggles women face when their names are attacked by baseless rumors. In interviews, she spoke about resilience, about standing tall even when the world tried to break you. Fans rallied behind her, declaring her the true winner of the feud. Rasheeda's future with Kirk, however, remained uncertain. While she hadn't officially ended the marriage, sources close to her admitted she was seriously considering it. She's finally seeing what we've all seen for years, one insider revealed. Kirk will never change, and she deserves better. The story dominated headlines for weeks, each new interview or cryptic social media post adding fuel to the fire. But underneath all the noise, one truth was clear. Kirk's reckless outburst had set off a chain reaction that changed everything. Yandy's strength had been tested and proven unshakable. Rasheeda's patience had finally worn thin. And Kirk's reputation had taken a hit from which it might never recover. As the dust settled, fans were left buzzing with questions. Would Rasheeda finally leave Kirk? Would Kirk manage to claw his way back into the public's good graces? And would Yandy use this moment to rise even higher in the love and hip-hop universe? The answers weren't clear yet, but one thing was certain. This wasn't just another feud. This was a defining moment. One that would reshape relationships, reputations, and maybe even the future of the show itself. And as the credits rolled on this chapter of chaos, fans couldn't help but wonder, if one heated outburst could cause this much destruction, what would happen when the next secret inevitably came to light? Because in this world, the drama never dies. It only waits for its next victim. And now the big question is, what happens next? Kirk's words may have caused the biggest scandal of the season, but the fallout has only just begun. Will Rasheeda finally walk away for good, or will she give Kirk yet another chance? Can Yandy move forward untouchable, or will more secrets come crawling out? Fans everywhere are debating, and we want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us whose side you're on. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next shocking twist.